Cultural impact of Folklore by Taylor Swift. Last year, when Taylor Swift's surprise dropped Folklore, it was a surprise for both her fans and her critics, as this was the first time in history an artist as huge as Taylor was dropping an album, doing a genre shift that is going to alter history of the music industry. So, why was it so important for her to reckon such a huge change? In the recent few years, Taylor has been known for her feuds with other famous people, a cancel culture target, and her overall media negative image, stripping her of her artistic credibility. Folklore was something that made her reclaim it back with a resonating thud. The great media portrayal of Taylor Swift had always been that she is someone who is notorious for writing petty love songs for teenage girls, writing songs only about her love life along with the character assassination of the boys she happens to date. Overall being girly, which in turn goes to show our society's chronicle hatred for almost anything that is beloved by teenage girls. But is it truly who she is and always have been all these years? This is the question people never had a chance of asking. Folklore was the time she proved she is a capable storyteller and always have been by writing stories about people that are not related to her in real life, instead are completely fictional. Folklore was our escape to a fictional world. The cultural impact of Folklore. So what's so great about it? Folklore had an engaging storyline and structure. In the pandemic world and as a product of isolation of its creator, it started a new wave. In a world full of the hustle, bustle, and busy life of capitalism, when the world stopped for a moment in history, a new aesthetic that has been a fantasy of young adults stuck in their mundane, busy lives came back to the surface. Cottagecore. It's a genre that provides a different kind of romanticized life that we are not really used to seeing in the mainstream media. The serenade life. The thing is, cottagecore does have its specific set of drawbacks, like the predominant white representation and romanticization of poverty or class inequality, which is problematic. But there, when we get a glimpse apart from all these and examine it solely for its nature and philosophy, it is an aesthetic that completely contradicts the mottos of 21st century success, productivity, and motivation. Cottagecore talks about a simpler life. Folklore captures exactly that. In Folklore, Taylor talks about simple human experiences surrounding the mundane and the exciting. The album starts with a track called The One. Here the narrator is talking about a love that had never survived. You might ask, but isn't that topic had been written about 1,000 times before in mainstream music? Doesn't all artists write songs about unfulfilled loves? Then what is so special about The One? Taylor, unlike others, sees the said affair through the nostalgia glasses, which is her strongest feature in songwriting process. Nostalgia reflects in all of her songs in Folklore. The production on the songs are predominantly vintage and nostalgia-inducing for no particular reason. In The One, instead of being bitter about this guy who clearly has moved on from her a long time ago, she shows a bittersweet affection towards their relationship, an affinity towards the moments they spend together. Growth, apart. The love triangle of Folklore. In the teenage love triangle of Cardigan, Betty and August Taylor never villainize any one of the protagonists. No matter whose head you are in, Augusta, Betty, or James, you feel relatability to them as if they were someone you knew or you yourself are. When young people are in love, they think things like to kiss in car and downtown bars is all we needed. You drew stars around my scars and now I'm bleeding. Back when I was living for the hope of it all, meet me behind the mall. Betty, that was when I passed your house, and like I couldn't breathe. Young love is never quite the same as when they grow up. The sweet innocence is forever lost. The optimistic view of the possible outcome is lost. The prime example is Taylor's teenage love songs like Love Story, You Belong With Me, where boy gets the girl and they ride off to the sunset. But few years later, the same Taylor writes, is it gonna be forever? Or is it gonna go down in flames? I Could See the End as It begins in 1989. Then comes songs like This Is Me Trying, where she talks about the struggle of a person who's trying to break out of old patterns, trying to turn a toxic life around when all seems lost. People who struggle with addiction. It may seem like a negligible effort to the people in the person's life, but a person who is trying to improve knows how much effort it takes every day moving through life, when they are constantly struggling against themselves. In the lines like I was so ahead of the curve become a sphere, fell behind all my classmates, and then I ended up here, pouring out my heart to a stranger, but I didn't pour the whiskey. This is me trying. She establishes a vivid picture of this person that is relatable to a bunch of people. Or in Mirrorball, she talks about certain people among us whose life depend on pleasing others. People who are trying to impress and oblige every opinion that is ever said about them. In lines like I'm a mirrorball, I'll show you every version of yourself tonight. This person clearly changes themselves to fit in with the other people but ends up being lonely nonetheless. Hence, I'm still trying everything to get you laughing at me. I've never been a natural, all I do is try. This reflects Taylor's personality very well. In the songs like Mad Woman, The Last Great American Dynasty, she demonstrates her own version of feminism. In Mad Women, she talks about this woman who is incredibly mistreated by her husband, but still it is expected by this society that she'll comply with him, to not show any resistance and accept men's bad behavior as they come. It's clever commentary on her part on how society wants women to silently deal with every shit that comes their way, and to never fight back, cause somehow that mutilates the social standards of femininity. Henceforth, no one likes a mad woman. This opens up a theme of women getting cancelled on the smallest account while men getting away with nearly anything. Taylor herself having a personal history of such experience is reflected in the songs. In The Last Great American Dynasty, she talks about Rebecca, whose house she owns now and who she admires as a feminist idol herself. Here we see how society has a lot to say about when a middle-class divorcee Rebecca marries Bill, heir to the Standard Oil name. How her strong will and steadfastness leads to society bestowing her with the title of loudest women this town has ever seen, which Taylor herself identifies with later in the song, as well as the Billboard Women of the Year speech, when she brings up the Scooter Braun struggle, an artist's right to own the art issue. Her point here: not only does society can't stand strong women, but also bestow her demeaning titles along her way. She also highlights how men losing interest on women are often blamed upon the women themselves, along the lines like, "It must be her fault his heart gave out." In songs like Peace, Hoax, Epiphany, and Invisible String, she gives the album a personal touch, as I believe in these songs she's sharing her own experience. The song Peace has a very unique production that gives you an idea of what peace might sound like. The lyrics describes the struggle of a woman whose life will never be normal, yet all her desires are fixated upon achieving a peaceful life. Here she accepts the tragic fate that she chose for herself by choosing a public life, but her heart aches for the fact that through her the people in her life who she loved might lose their normality too. In Hoax, the same theme continues, as the production is also similar in mood. Hoax, Taylor tries to find hope and the will to go on in incredible tough times. Lyrics like "Stood on the cliffside screaming, give me a reason" is a testimony to that. In Epiphany, she talks about the effects the pandemic might leave upon the healthcare workers. Some fans also believe that this song is about her grandfather who fought in World War II. Invisible String is a romantic song. It's very picturesque, to say the least. Taylor paints a vivid picture of how finding true love can be fateful, something that is divine almost. She talks about how she and her soulmate was going on about their lives, unaware of each other's existence, even though it was fated that they would meet, and instantly feel that they have known each other forever. Hence, Invisible String. I think this is what true love is supposed to feel like. In Exile, Illicit Affairs, or My Tears Ricochet, she is the one who's getting betrayed by someone she holds close to her heart. The songs carry a haunted feeling of existential loss that many people can relate to. I personally think My Tears Ricochet is about the same of women who gets killed by her husband in No Body, No Crime of Evermore. But my personal favorite of the album is Seven, though it is often a misunderstood song. But Seven in itself celebrates childhood, child spirit, and how we need to cherish it. She talks about her long-lost childhood friend who she can't remember the face of, but the sheer nostalgia of the song and the childlike wonder makes the song a masterpiece. She tries to convey that although we are ought to grow up and be mature, but immaturity has its own charm. In growing up, giving up that passionate mental state a child has where sadness is never grief but momentary only. It's truly an awful experience growing up and to learn that oneself is in fact detached from the surroundings. Something is lost in growing up, maybe the passionate spirit that reality, practicality sucks out of us. 7 celebrates that innocence wonder of an immature child who sees the world as it is without any filter. Lakes is a bonus track. I think this is that one song where she flexes her songwriting genius while celebrating the true cottagecore lifestyle. A red rose grew up in ice-frozen ground with no one around to tweet it. I bathe in cliffside pools with my calamitous love, insurmountable grief. In the end, she gives a clear message of never backing down to the young woman of our times. That she might be the maddest woman this town has ever seen, but she had a marvelous time ruining everything. To be brave is to receive the greatest rewards life has planned for you. Thank you guys if you made it this far. Please do like and subscribe. Also tell me in the comments what your experience of folklore was. Or drop a suggestion for the next video.